Hi, Phyllis here from southernfrugal.com. We're going to fix pinto beans, and we're going to fix them in a way that will eliminate the problem that dried beans have, and that is they cause gas. So there is a technique to cook them to pretty well eliminate almost all of the gas that pintos would cause. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about the pintos. They're a very good source of protein. They're also a pretty good source of potassium, and I'm sure they have some, little micro minerals and all that in them. But they're a very good substitute for meat, and you really get a lot of energy from pintos, or at least we do. And you can mix them with stuff like I'm going to make pintos with dumplings today. And I'll show you how to do that after the pintos have cooked. You can also have them with rice. You don't get as much energy when you have them with rice as you do if you have them with dumplings or biscuits, but you do get a lot of energy, and they're just a very good source of protein and a very inexpensive source, I might add. So let's get started with this. First of all, I'm going to be using the Great Value pintos. Now, if you look at different bags of pintos in your grocery store, you'll see that some of them are darker and some of them are lighter, and I'm not sure why that is, but we really like the lighter type of pintos. Now, one of the things that you have to do, let me turn this down, there we go, is to check your pintos for rocks, because you don't want somebody eating your pintos and break a tooth, because sometimes there are big rocks in them. But now, when I use the Great Value brand, it's rare to find rocks and sticks, but in a lot of other brands you will find that. So it's just the two of us, so I'm only going to cook half this bag. Now, one bag will make about 13 servings, so if you've got, a family, a big family, you'd want to cook the whole bag. And I used to do that, but now that it's just the two of us, I just only cook half the bag. My favorite little trick is to clip a little wooden clothespin on it, okay? Alright, so we're going to spread those out, and what you're looking for is any bad beans or any rocks. There's a bad bean. That looks almost like a rock, but it's not. And I usually pick out any beans that are cracked. And I'm not sure why, I just do it. There's another little bad bean. And, any bean that doesn't quite look like the rest of them, you want to pick that out. Alright, that's about it. This is pretty easy to do. Any little bean that looks a little shriveled up, you want to pick those out. Alright, that's about it. Now, that's the amount I've picked out, so I'm going to throw those away. There's two more. Oh, there's another one. Alright, there's the amount. I'm going to throw them away. Now, I did this, spread them out on wax paper just so they're easier to get up. And I'm going to put them into the colander, and I'm going to give them a good rinse. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put some water on it and show you how to do the rest of this. Okay, I have rinsed the beans, and I've got about a half a pot of water here, and I'm just going to dump these in. Now I'm going to bring this water up to a boil. In fact, it's almost at a boil now. And I'm going to boil these, not in a robust way, but kind of a little rolling boil for 10 minutes. Now, I want to explain why I'm doing this. Now, you can pre-soak beans. Just turn this up. You can pre-soak the pintos, and that's going to help a lot, but it won't help as much as the boiling process will. Now here is the offender in pinto beans. And I wrote this down so you can know how to pronounce it. Oligosaccharides. Oligosaccharides. And this is a form of sugar that's in beans that your body really can't digest it. And so you end up getting gas in your intestines, and sometimes that can be uncomfortable. So what we're going to do is eliminate most of that, and so that we've still got our protein in the bean, we've still got our good carbohydrates, we've still got the fiber. And now, you know, when you eat dried beans, you can take a little thing you can buy in the drugstore and Walmart, wherever, called Pinto. Now, Pinto is an enzyme that helps you to somewhat digest this oligosaccharides. And I have trouble saying that. Oligosaccharides. It's a sugar that's in the pintos. And so the Pinto will help you digest it, but I prefer to just try to eliminate most of it. And it's so easy to do. It just takes a little effort on your part. So what you want to do is boil the pintos for about 10 minutes, just a kind of a slow little rolling boil. After you boil them 10 minutes, dump that water out through a colander, rinse the beans off, rinse the pot out, fill it up again, boil them 10 more minutes. Dump the water out, rinse the beans off, rinse the pot out, and then the third time. Now, by the third time, you will have eliminated most of the oligosaccharides that cause the gas problem, and you're good to go then. Then you'll need to cook them for probably an hour, hour and a half till they get soft. Now, do not salt the beans until they're completely done. If you put salt in them, or even if you put like ham or a ham bone in them that's going to have salt in it, it's going to take a lot longer for them to cook, and the hulls are going to be kind of tough. So you just don't want to put the salt in until after they're already done. Alright, now my beans are boiling. I've already got my timer set, and I'm going to be back in just a minute, and we'll just do it all over again. Alright, the beans have cooked for about 10 minutes. You see the little foam that's around the edge, and I'm not sure you can tell, but the water has turned kind of an orangey color. Now we're going to dump this water off, dump the beans in a little colander, and we're going to rinse out the pot, and we'll be right back. Alright, I have rinsed out my pot, put in clean water. I went ahead and turned my burner up to high. These are the beans. I'm going to dump them back in. They've been thoroughly rinsed again. Now during this process, some of the little bean hulls, is what I call them, or coverings, will come off, but that's okay. That's just part of being a pinto. Some of your little outer shell on the bean comes off. Now you can pick those out if you want to. I just usually leave them in. Sometimes I pick them out. Anyway, we're going to bring this up to a boil, and we'll turn my burner down to medium, and we'll boil them for 10 minutes again. Be back then. Alright, this is the second boil. See, we've still got a lot of foam around the edge of the pot. So I'm going to dump them in the colander. Rinse my pot. And I'm also going to rinse the beans again. Okay, now at this point, this pot has got a little bit of a skim going around the edge here. So I'm just going to take a paper towel and wipe that out. And then I'm going to put my beans right back in. Now, I'm going to start them out in hot water just because it makes it go a lot quicker. just dump my beans right back in. And they're ready to go right back on the stove. This will be the third boil. All right, we're on our final boiling for the pintos. And you'll notice there's even more foam on them now. I'm going to dump them out again, rinse my pot out. Rinse the beans. And now we're ready to cook them. Now we will have eliminated most of the oligosaccharides or the indigestible sugars that are in the pinto beans. So now I'm going to dump them right back in. And this is the final water that I'm going to cook the beans in. So you want to make sure you get plenty of water in there. And they're going to cook for about an hour, and depending on your pintos, maybe an hour and a half, okay? All right, now, let me just put these back on the burner. And while I've got the camera here, I wanted to show you this. Now, I first cooked pintos, I guess I was in my 20s, and I thought these were worms. And so when I had them in the pot cooking and I saw these little things in there, I thought, oh no, I've got pintos that have got worms in them. Oh. And so anyway, I got one of the beans out and examined it. And I hope you can see this. I broke one in half. This is what I call the little trunk of the little root system that will come out of this bean if you planted it. And that they come out, you know, when they get in water. So if you soak them overnight, you'd see a lot of these. See, there it is right at the end. Anyway, they, you know, to my benefit, they do look like worms, okay? So if you've never cooked pintos before and you see some of these are in any dried bean, that's not a worm. That's just part of the root system that would be on the plant if you planted it in the ground. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cook the pintos for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on when they get tender, and we'll be back. All right, the pintos are very tender now. I've added about, I don't know, a tablespoon or so of just regular vegetable oil. I'm going to put the salt in now. Now they do require right much salt. That ought to do it. A little more. Okay. Now we're just going to let those simmer. They're just barely boiling. And I'm going to make the dumplings now. Move this back. Now, I make my dumplings really just like I make biscuits. So I'm going to go ahead and sift the flour. Now this is all-purpose white lily flour. Excuse me, I said that wrong. It's self-rising, not all-purpose, self-rising white lily flour. So I've got probably a cup or so in one bowl. Now I'm going to put the rest of the flour in this other bowl. All right, now I don't really measure anything for this. Let me get that so you can see it all. All right, I'm just going to take a little bit of Crisco, probably not even that much. That's maybe a tablespoon or so. So what I'm doing is making biscuits, but I'm going to make them with more flour than I normally would. So it's going to make, if you were making a really stiff biscuit. And just get your Crisco all incorporated in there. And now I'm going to pour in some whole milk buttermilk, just a little bit to get started, because again I want a very stiff batter, and I've already got too much flour. Too much buttermilk, so I'm going to add a bunch more flour to that. don't do what I did. I put too much buttermilk, so now I've got to have a lot more flour to make it stiff. Again, reality video, okay? So I put a bunch more flour in there. I'm just going to mix that up. Again, I want a very, very stiff biscuit dough. All right, more flour. Whole big handful, really. All right, that looks about right. Again, I spilt the buttermilk in there, so I had to make more. All right. There we go. We've got a good stiff batter there. I'm going to use yet more flour, whole handful. Put it on there. All right, I'm going to wash my hands real quick. We're ready to make the dumplings now. Now I like little, small, itty-bitty dumplings in my pinto. Now I've got way too much, I can tell you that now. That's because I spilt some of the buttermilk. So I'm just going to pinch off a little bit, get my hands good and dry. And I'm going to roll them up just like that. Just throw them in. Roll them around, throw them in. Now, you want to make sure that your beans are, you know, at a pretty good rolling boil. So I'm going to turn them up just a little bit. Just keep adding the little dumplings. See, about that size. Now, I like my dumplings kind of dry in the middle, you know, kind of like a biscuit would be. And in order to get them that way, you have to have more flour in your little dumpling. So just keep rolling, pinching off, and rolling them up. Now some of these dumplings will actually just disintegrate and make the, you know, kind of almost like a gravy in the pintos. That one's a little bigger. That's okay though. And I just keep rolling them up and throwing them in. Now I know this is a long video, but I mean, if you learn how to cook pintos that people will like and they're not going to cause people discomfort with, you know, having a lot of gas, then the long video was worth it, okay? All right, now some of the dumplings have already started rising. So I'm going to keep rolling these until I get really pretty much the top full of little dumplings. Now I actually, I like the dumplings better than the pintos if you want to know the truth. But, you know, you got to have the pintos to get that flavor in them. Just roll them up in a little ball. And you do want to use self-rising flour. And kind of dip them down in that extra flour at the bottom. Roll them up and throw them in. Now we're going to try to eliminate having our dumplings collapse and getting gummy in the middle. And there's a little technique that you can use to kind of help that along. I know it looks like I'm making a lot, but I love them. I really love them. It's kind of like having biscuits that you kind of dumped pintos over, really. And the beans in the bottom help hold up the dumplings, you know, kind of up out of the water a little bit. All right, I think I've got about enough now. Now I'm going to just mash that down and make a little round kind of bread and cook it in the oven so I don't waste that. Alright, we've got them all ready now. And now, let me zoom in so you can see them a little better. Alright, now I'm going to put the lid on this. My lid's got a little itty bitty vent there. And I'm going to leave them cooking for 20 minutes. I'm not going to raise the lid or anything. So I'm going to leave them just simmering, you know, kind of a slow little boil for 20 minutes. And when they're done, I'll be back and show you what they look like. Alright, we're back and our dumplings are pretty well done. They've been cooking with the lid on for about 20 minutes. Now I did have to add a little more water to my pintos. So, with this meal, we are having some of the kale from the garden last fall. And this is just a can of just regular beets. And I'm going to, you know, just spruce that up a little bit by adding a couple of tablespoons of brown sugar, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg, and just regular apple cider vinegar, a couple of tablespoons of that. So that'll spark up the beets a little bit. Alright, I wanted to show you what the dumplings look like. So we are just about ready to eat, and I'm going to pull some out in a bowl and let you, a little plate and let you see what they look like. I don't know if you can see that or not. See, it's like a little biscuit in between. Cut this one in two. There. See, it's like a little biscuit in between. Alright, now, some people like their dumplings gummy, or gummier, or moist, whatever you want to call it. And if that's the way you like them, the way to do it is cook them with the lid on for about 10 minutes and take the lid off. And they'll kind of deflate a little bit and, you know, be a little firmer and more moist in the middle. But I like them just like this, and I like them little. So good. Alright, we're ready to eat, and I did want to show you, give you something to go by on how to cook these pintos, because there is another method. Now it doesn't work as well as the boiling the beans 10 minutes and dumping it off and doing that 3 times. See if you can see this from here. Yeah. Okay, so the first method is boil 10 minutes 3 times, and the second method is you soak them overnight, and then you boil them for 20 minutes, and then dump that water off and, you know, bring them back to a boil and cook them until they're tender. Now, when you're adding other things, like today I added dumplings, but I have fixed them where I added onions and bell peppers, and of course if you do a ham bone you want to cook that and simmer it in a separate pot and add it later. And the reason for that is because the ham's always got salt in it and it'll take a lot longer for the beans to cook. Okay, I hope you can see that. Okay. Alright, I hope this helps, and just remember that the cooking the pintos, that is your meat for the meal. Like our meal today, the pintos are the meat and the protein, and they're much, much cheaper than just, you know, buying hamburger or steak or beef stew or pork chops, and they can give you a really good source of protein and also a good source of fiber. So if you eliminate the oligosaccharides, I can't hardly say that. Anyway, it's the pentose sugars that cause the digestive problems. So if you can eliminate that, then you can add pintos, you know, to meals and be good to go. All right, I hope this helps y'all. We'll see you next time.